Oh, this one's important because it seems that a lot of people that make repos on GitHub cannot grasp this concept fully. How to create a Python environment. But I'm not saying I'm much better. I was helping a friend on my Discord create an installer for his repo, and that's where I learned how to do this. But while doing it, Python got my brain all twisted in a knot, and it was a couple of weeks of my time. But this video is geared more towards you guys out there who are downloading or Git cloning repos, and it's not installing the correct Python environment. But if you're making a repo for GitHub, please watch this video so you can understand how you can make your repo better. And then this last one, this is what really got me into wanting to figure this out way back in the day. Never, ever have to fumble around with Miniconda or Anaconda and clicking through screens and trying to remember which repo uses that, when you can just set up a batch file to do it for you. This is my look of disapproval. All right, step one is to set up Python correctly first. I did mention this in my previous video. Obviously, this is part 2 of my essentials for AI stuff. Part 1 went over a few things. And one of the sections in that video was when you install your main one, you should check the box that says add Python to path. So I already have 3.12 installed. If I needed to fix this, I could mess around with environment variables, or I could just hit uninstall, completely uninstall it, restart the computer, and then when I'm installing it, I could do it correctly. And I'll show you by grabbing one that I don't have installed. It's right here. You just check that. And then when you're installing other versions later on, don't check this box. And then here's another caveat. Click Customize Installation. Then on the next screen, I recommend that you check the box that says PyLauncher. And optionally, you can install it for all users, but PyLauncher will make it for how some repos use this for installing Python. And you can do this for every version of Python you install. And you'll see later in the video how you can make PyLauncher grab a specific version when it does its thing. And I recommend that your main version is 3.10.11 because most of the stuff that I've come across AI related on GitHub use that version. Then after the install is completed, make sure you restart the computer fully, as in saving all your programs, don't have anything left open, and then restart. And this is the reason. Because when you type Python, whichever version you check the box for add Python to path, that's the one that's going to be running when you use this command to do things. And most repos on GitHub create their environments using this command without even checking what version you have installed first. And like I said earlier, most of those repos need Python version 3.10.11. The next step is look at the repos that you want to use on GitHub and read them.
Yes, I read them the second you sent them to me.
Some of them tell you which Python version to use, most of them don't. This is my look of disapproval. Here's the one for FluxGem, really good example. In the manual installation section, this person says you're going to use the Python command, just like I told you. But he doesn't say anywhere, I'm sorry to gender this person. They don't say anywhere on this repo which version of Python. This command only works if you check the box, add Python to path when you're installing Python. But right here, still in the manual installation section, we're doing a Git clone for the Koya SD scripts. So let's open up that repo, click on the page, hit Control F so it brings up my browser's search box, and type Python. And they're using Python 3.10.6, okay? 3.10.11, it's just fine. I can tell you that it works. They're saying 3.10.x will work but not tested. But these two parts of the number are the big kickers. These are like updates to the main version, this last number at the end. That's why I said 3.10.11. But let's look at the repo for ComfyUI. Python. It says Python 3.13 is supported, but using 3.12 is recommended because some custom nodes and their dependencies might not be supported yet. Git clone the repo, pip install, bunch of stuff. And nowhere in here does it talk about how to create the environment. If this happens, you have to do a little bit more digging. In some cases, you can poke around on the files on the repo itself and read some of the files. But I find it much easier to clone the repo to my computer so I can use the command line to both search for specific file types and open them in Notepad, which is really fast. So I'm going to go up here and hit code and copy this. And I'm just going to make a temporary one right here. I'm going to name it ComfyUI-temp because I'm going to delete it. This is just a demonstration while I'm showing you something. All right, it's done. I'm going to cd into it. dir/b/s star.bat. This means simple list and S means subfolders. And star.bat means show me all the batch files. What I'm doing here is reading the list of batch files in the folders, then opening the one that most likely creates the environment in Notepad. Look for batch files with stuff like setup or install in the name, or maybe they're called run or start. Sometimes they're called GUI, and it's spelled GUI. There's update and there's run. Let's see, .ci-windows base files /run NVIDIA GPU. Hit home button, type notepad at the beginning, and they're using an exe. It's so their own Python that's embedded in there. Let's see, just to confirm, b/s python.exe. Nope, there's no Python in there. So, I had my hopes all up, thinking that it would have its own embedded Python. So in the case of this, you're going to want to watch my video about how to install ComfyUI if you still want to install ComfyUI. But I would manually create an environment for this and then go back and do these pip install things after the environment was activated. And then I would have a batch file in there. For example, this is my Flux installation of ComfyUI, where I have a few lines of code inside the batch file. And I'll zoom that in if you want to pause the screen and screen cap that or whatever. Or you could sign up on my Patreon and the script for this video will be in my tier 2 folder. Now let's look at the repo for Forge. Looking at the section that says advanced install. If you know what you are doing, you can install Forge using the same method as automatic 1111, which is what that is. Clone this repo here. I've already got cloned to this folder, so when you run it, you're supposed to run webui-user.bat. So let's open that in Notepad. By the way, this demo is if you just cloned it and you're looking through its batch files. Blah, 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 it's doing all this stuff. Call webui.bat. Okay, Notepad webui.bat. Hit Control F, bring up the search box, type Python. Let's start poking around. Next, next, next. So it's doing a bunch of Python stuff. That's good. It's making sure everything's set up. And here's venv. That's the other thing we want to look for. It's for environment. Sometimes they just put env, which makes it hard to find. And I don't like it when they do that. venv should be the standard. Start venv, echo, creating venv and directory. Good. That means it makes its own environment. Back to the Forge GitHub repo. If you do Control F in there and type Python and then keep pressing enter, and it bounces all over the place, but this way you can quickly see if it has any Python versions mentioned, which I don't see any here. But lots of people online say that 3.10.11 works good on Forge. Now let's move on to Koya, and tons of people use it to train LoRa's. Doing a search for Python, it says, ensure you have the following software and hardware, blah, 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 a bunch of stuff. Python 3.10.x or 3.11. Okay, so like I was saying, 3.10. Now look at this right here. It says setup.bat or setup 3.10.bat. This is how I got some of the information for how to create a Python environment for your repo, because they're using the Python launcher that you get from the customized installation screen from installing Python, the PyLauncher right here. Up here where it shows all the files and folders, we can look into the setup 3.10.bat file just by clicking it. And see how it's doing the py command to create the environment? More on this later. All right, now for this section, what you want to figure out is, do you want to create an environment manually? Like in my case, I wanted to do that for FluxGym and for ComfyUI, and not for Forge or Koya, because the developers of Forge and Koya know what they're doing. Oh, hot take! Well, the developer of ComfyUI definitely knows a lot. Maybe they're not saying how to manually create an environment on their repo. But I've seen a lot of other repos out there where they have that issue as well as other issues, and it's obvious that they have a lot to learn. If you experience this somewhere, send them this video, and maybe they'll create the setup and start batch files for their repo. Here are some rules. Once, repos like Koya and Forge set up their environments for you so you don't have to, as long as you have Python 3.10.11 already installed with the box checked. Add Python to path, and then you restarted the computer first before installing the repo. This also has to be done if you're creating an environment manually. However, you may not have to check the box add Python to path if the version of Python you're installing is different. There are other ways to create the environment. If the repo that you need to create an environment for requires a different Python version, then I will show you other ways to create the environment later on in the video. Tuned! Never install dependencies for a repo without first creating and then activating the environment. Like ComfyUI is telling you to install these dependencies with pip install. So if you see pip install and a bunch of stuff or the word requirements anywhere, that should be a trigger. Those things need to be done after the environment's activated. And you can't activate the environment without creating it first. Third, if the repo does not create the environment for you, do have to create one yourself. And fourth, if the repo tries to use another Python version than your main one, it should either give you instructions about how to do it or handle it within its own setup batch file. If neither of those are happening, then you need to create the environment yourself. All right, let's go over the 3 different methods for creating an environment yourself. If you installed Python using the add Python to path, you can just type the word Python. You can verify what version it is right there, 3.10.11. You have to hit Control Z, and on some computers, sometimes I have to hit Enter after I hit Control Z. If this is the version of the environment I want, I'm going to cd into my repo that I just made with this command. So make sure you're in that folder in your command line and type Python space -m space venv space venv and press enter. And now that it's done, I can activate the environment this way. venv /scripts /activate.bat. When you see ven with the parentheses around it over there, that means the environment is activated. Anything I do with Python or pip or packages or whatever you want to call them is now isolated to this environment and won't touch the main computer. So if I type pip freeze, it'll show me all the repositories I have installed, which are none because I haven't installed any yet. But if I go over to a command line that doesn't have an environment activated, it's, doing the same command shows I got all this stuff installed over there. So they're separate. All right, let's check out if this other computer has the next command, which is called where Python. Where Python. And that worked. It's showing more than one version. And that's 3.10 and 3.11. Don't get this confused. This is not 3.10.11. This is my 3.10.11 because it's your main version is the first 2 parts. If I type Python here, just by itself, I'm at 3.10.11. But let's say in this case, I wanted 3.11 to be my environment version. So make dir my repo _2, cd into that, go to the full path of this, copy that, quote at the beginning, paste, quote at the end, space, -m space venv space venv. This is going to install a Python environment using 3.11. Press enter and give it a minute. Now you can activate the environment with this command. Just type the word Python to see the version, and it says 3.11.0. And if I open another command line, zoom that in for you, and type Python, it's 3.10.11. So see how this one's 3.11, but this one's 3.10. They're separated. Now the third method, while I zoom this in for you guys, if I just type Python on this computer, it shows 3.13.3, and where Python shows me 3.13 and there's no other versions. but we're going to see if PyLauncher was installed and it is aware of any versions. You just type pi-0 and press enter. Oh, there's 2 versions installed. Okay, pi-0 on this computer shows 312 and 310. This one shows 313 and 310. And I can go on and show you in the other computers, but we don't need to waste our time like that.
Please! We're not going to waste our time chasing after wild scientific theories!
I'm making a dummy folder for this. CD obviously, this is you being in the folder of some repo and you want to make an environment for it. Let's say in this case, I wanted 3.13. All right, ignore my failed versions up here because I should have just copy pasted the command. I was going from memory. But the command is py space, oh, it just finished. And then a dash, and then the first 2 parts of the version number, space dash m, and then another space, venv space venv. So what's going on here is this part replaces the Python command part. Now to activate it, venv scripts activate.bat, and then scroll down, Python, scroll down, and I'm running 3.13.3. And then the final part is to create the batch file that activates the environment. So I can Control Z out of running Python right there, and it scrolled funny, and I have to see how it just says Control Z, and I press enter. I'm going to type CLS to clear the screen so I don't have to keep scrolling it for you guys. This is the fastest way. You type the right angle bracket, which is a greater than, and then type whatever you want your batch file to be. I like to use start.bat, and then a space, and then the word echo in all caps, and then a left square bracket. This is just something I figured out many, many years ago. Left square bracket, it's easy for me to remember, and it works every time. Some of the other characters don't work every time, but you need something there for it to write a blank line into the batch file. All right, now I can type notepad and then start.bat to edit it. And I'm gonna just copy paste the stuff in and zoom in for you. Okay, you could pause the screen here or look at my doc in the tier 2 folder on Patreon. There'll be a folder in my Patreon, it'll be in tier 2 and then undocumented solutions and video scripts. So go in there and look for essentials for AI series. And then I'm gonna have a part 2 doc in there that's not in there right now. What this first line does, I'll show you. Echo off. It makes it so that it's clear. The only stuff that will come on the screen are stuff that is supposed to be output from the script that you're running later, instead of showing every single line like C users whoever. Title FluxGem, or whatever your repo name is. In my case, for this demo, I'm going to put my repo and copy that. Press enter. It changes the title of the title bar up there to my repo. And if you have your taskbar set up this way, so you can see what the actual names of things that you're running are open instead of hiding it. I mean, come on, Microsoft, I'm not a child. I need more than shapes and colors.
Dear little baby Jesus, lying there in your little ghost manger, looking at your baby Einstein developmental videos, learn about shapes and colors. And
well, I did a video, boop, about how to change your taskbar settings in Windows 10 and Windows 11. And this one, in a batch file, you can't just say venv scripts activate.bat. You have to call and then use quotes. I use quotes just as a habit because sometimes without quotes it doesn't work. It's usually because there's a space in here, but I've actually seen it where it doesn't work, even though there's no space in the path. But anyways, this deactivate is in case you are running another repo and you change folders to this one, or something else happened and you need to clear the environment out of memory so that you can load it back in. And so this line loads it back in, loads the environment, or loads it for the first time. And this is to command whatever the actual script is on the repo that launches the app. So this Python app.py, that was how FluxGem instructions said to launch it. And you can either look through these files that are on here, or let's say I'm in my Forge folder and I do dir star.py to see all the Python scripts. It's probably going to be launch.py or WebUI. It could be either one of those. Now, if there's no documentation anywhere about which one to do, then You could test all of these commands on your own in the command line. Just make sure you activate the environment and then type Python and then the name of a script like this. So the env scripts activate.bat. Now I cleared the screen so it's easier for me to read, but I've got the environment activated. I'm verifying there. So let's do dir star.py again. And let's try Python space webui.py. And that's how you test to see which one actually loads the program and everything. Oh, look, it's actually working. This is the normal startup for Forge. I must have done it right. But I'm going to hit Control-C because I don't need to run Forge on this computer right now. Lol. All right, this is kind of my self-promo section, but also help for other repo creators. You can either do like I did, which is get multiple computers with Python installed a bunch of different ways on them, and then go back and forth with Grok chatbot and Gemini and figure it out. Or join my Patreon on my tier 2 level, because you could just reverse engineer my FluxGem installer if you want. And even change it to use a different version of Python. I don't care. Just grab that part that installs the Python out of the script. Now, if you join my Patreon just for that, and that's all you need. I've had people where they've joined my Patreon and they pay for 1 month and then immediately cancel, but then ignore DMs. If you do that, don't ignore DMs, because sometimes I have to set stuff up so that you can have access, okay? I'll give you access to a folder where all the tiers 2 stuff is. And then after 30 days goes by, I'll remove your access. It's no big deal. I don't care. All right, now it's time for the outro, because that's enough. I've taught enough. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. Luckily, it's only a few feet away. But if you haven't seen my first video on Essentials for AI yet, that's a foundation. You need to start there. Go watch that video. Subscribe to the channel right there, and then click my Patreon over somewhere over here, and consider supporting me with some dollary dues so I can make more videos and, you know, get more hardware and stuff. Thanks, time travelers. I'll see you in the part 3 video. Bye.